Hi, everybody. Welcome to the SalesIntel show, the Pipeline Pioneers, where the focus is to learn from the practitioner, from the leaders, from the community as to how to build the best B2B pipeline, the revenue pipeline for your teams, because revenue pipeline is the heart and blood of any company. And we at SalesIntel believe that building a pipeline is a team sport. It's not just the sales responsibility or the BDR responsibility or the marketing responsibility. It takes a village. It truly takes a village to build a robust pipeline that converts into revenue. Today, I'm excited to have Sarah McConnell from Qualified on the show. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having a chat with you. So Sarah, let's start by telling the audience about you, Qualified, and how in your role you impact the pipeline generation for Qualified.
Absolutely. So I'm our VP of Demand Gen. I work at a company called Qualified. We are focused on pipeline generation from your website. So works out really well with the theme of Pipeline Pioneers. And my role in particular impacts pipeline, I would say, in two very specific ways. So the first being as the VP of Demand Gen, that is kind of just the onus of my role. So all the metrics I measured on revolve around some form of pipeline generation. The second being, I own our product at our company. So Qualified does help, like I mentioned, generate pipeline from your website. I'm our main user. We sell into other demand gen teams at B2B companies. So it's a really cool use case for me to be able to use our own product to drive pipeline and see how it's actually impacting our business, and then be able to funnel that into the company and how we can use that to better our sales process. So the short answer is, as a VP of Demand Gen, all I think about every single day is pipeline, and then selling a product that generates pipeline. It literally is in my dreams, my nightmares, you name it. That's all I think about.
That makes sense. So you truly drink your own champagne as they say.
Every day. Yes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So Sarah, last year was tough for many companies. Lots of companies missed their numbers. The pipeline just wasn't there, made lots of mistakes, and the macroeconomic headwinds were against us. If you were to look back, what was one mistake that you think, I wish I had done things differently? And what's the learning from that?
Yes, I think the one that stands out the most to me is, like probably every single company that's listening to this, we really had to be very hesitant with where we put budget. And I think it was the right thing to do in retrospect. As hindsight's always 2020, looking back, I wish we could have done things a little bit differently. But when we have these economic headwinds, being really cautious with our budget made sense. Our CEO used to say something to us that really stuck with me, which was, is a dollar spent now as good as a dollar spent in 6 months, in a year? Is it really going to have the same return when you're spending during these really challenging times? So we kind of approached our whole budget process with that very conservative mindset on how we were spending. However, when we would get into deal cycles, what we would hear a lot is, oh, we really like this product. We can't buy right now. We don't have budget either. So it was kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy where we'd get into deal cycles. We would get people onto calls. We would show demos and this is amazing. I don't have any budget right now. We got to wait till the next budget cycle. We've got to wait till next year, which totally makes sense. But I think had we put more money into brand, which we kind of had to pull back on a little bit. And again, I understand why we did it, why other companies did it. It was really hard to convince these companies and sort of set that seed in their brain of, why is it worth purchasing this product now? And how is it going to help with your problems? And when everyone's being really conservative with budget, it's really easy to say, oh, this is next year's problem. So I think our hesitation on brand spend and brand activities really hindered our ability to get people across that initial line of yeah, this is really great, but I don't have any budget right now, or I've got to wait to ask for this budget. So I think that was definitely a miss that obviously moving into this year, we're really trying to work towards rectifying.
So basically make the right investments in brand that are needed.
Yeah, I think, you hear all the time, you've got to put a little bit in there. And I think, gosh, what was last year? 2023, time flies. I wish we put more in and recognize you need some amount of money to be driving that awareness that you can't have tied directly to an exact pipeline number. It's really easy to ask for dollars when you can say, I put $1 in and I got $4 out, or I put $1 in and I got $3 out. But brand doesn't really work like that. So, and especially organic marketing, it's just not, I wish that we had pushed harder to say like, hey, you're not going to see the money come out of this on the other end, but no, it's working in that we're driving awareness of our product. We're driving awareness for what we do and how we help you and this sort of the solution that we're giving our audience. And that's hard to do when budgets are tight. But in retrospect, I wish we'd pushed a little bit harder to keep that brand engine going a little bit more, because we kind of, you dig yourself a hole. Now you got to get yourself out and you got to like retell your ICP, like who are we and what do we do?
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So, well, now we are in 24, the new budgets, new year, new initiatives. What is one experiment or initiative that you are excited about for 2024?
Yeah. So I think the exact same thing I just talked about, where we turned off a lot of our brand spend, is now we're starting to turn that back on and do some experiments with some more like advertising and brand spending, where we don't expect this like direct pipeline output necessarily. It's more about how are we like warming up accounts? How are accounts getting engaged with us? Do they know about us? So that it makes our outbounders job easier. But learning from 2023, when we had to pull that budget back, what we're doing this year is we did like a full analysis at the end of our last fiscal year, which ends in January. And we said, what are the best type of accounts for us? And I think everyone kind of does this if you have ABM, but we did like a really thorough, we're like, we got to come back and revisit this, is what are the particular segments of accounts that are the most important to our business, meaning we win at the best rate, we win fast, like they have the best metrics of our entire sales cycle. Now, can we go put money towards those accounts to make sure we're winning every single one of them? So I think this year with the experiment that we're doing is we are turning back on brand, but how we are giving confidence to our executives and our board that that money is well spent is we're saying like, we're only putting these dollars to the best of the best accounts that we know we win. We know that we win well and quickly. And I think that is giving them the confidence to say, yeah, we want 100% of that segment of accounts. Like, how can you go win it? And this is how we're going to do that. So I think, before the economic headwinds in like 2022 and 2023, we spent brand money like very broadly. You cast a very wide net. You're trying to get as many people in. And now we're like, okay, we're going to make it instead much more narrow, prove out that this is working, prove out the value, and then start to like turn that dial back on, which I feel like a lot of people are doing hopefully this year after budgets are getting a little bit more loosened up.
Yeah, no, got it. No, which makes sense. I have another question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
What tools, data sets that you use to figure out, okay, here are the right accounts for us?
We are such a Salesforce shop that I'll say it's not anything fancy. We pulled reports out of Salesforce. Mm-hmm. Everything that we have, all of our opportunities, all of that data, it all exists in our Salesforce instance. Our own product pushes a lot of data into Salesforce, but pretty much what we're just trying to look at is we know, particularly the accounts that we sell into, there's a lot of similarities with like their tech stack, who they're selling into, like what are the industries that they're selling into, what's their employee size, their band. So we pulled a lot of those data points that we know are like every single account that's in our system has them. And then we just pulled a bunch of Salesforce reports and then put them into like Excel sheets and ran pivot tables and said, okay, what are these segments? And what we tried to look for is, if we look at just employee bands, and then we bracket it out and we said, okay, here's our win rate by employee band. Here's our like sales cycle. Here's our average sales price by employee bands. Did it by industry, did it by tech stack. We did all of these different experiments and took the data points that we knew were probably pretty important to, or consistent across the brands that we sold into, and then kind of piece them all together. So we're like, okay, this employee size, these industries with this tech stack, they are performing at our best. And that's who we want to hone it on.
Makes sense. Very, very smart. So it's all data-driven ICP intelligence, right? That's awesome.
100%.
This is great. So let's switch the gears a little bit. We know that growth comes from many factors, right? It's just not one channel that's going to give you all the pipeline that you need. You need to invest in brand, events, partnerships, product. All right. So here's how this works. You have 100 pennies. Each coin is worth 10 pennies here, right? And you have all these different channels that bring pipeline growth, right? You get to pick, you get to make the bets as to where are you going to invest your 100 pennies in 2024 to generate the most optimal pipeline for Qualify.
First of all, I love this game. I think this is so cool and so fun. And I can't wait to see what different answers you get, because I have to imagine every guest has just like such different opinions on this. This
Yep,
is so
I'll
fun.
show you after you place your bets. I'll show you how the community has placed their bets.
Amazing. So I'm going to give answers very specific to my own company and how we operate, because something like the first one, product-led growth, I think PLG is so amazing. And I think there's so many benefits to companies that pull off PLG, and they pull it off really well. We don't have a PLG motion at our company, and that's not something that's on our roadmap. So that's not something that I'll put pennies into, but I'm sure that you get a ton of people saying that that is where they would invest dollars. However, if I'm looking at this, I feel like my top two that I would put, let's say like 20 of my 10 pennies. So 2 to like sales-led growth and 2 to marketing-led growth. So yeah, perfect.
2 to marketing. There we go. Perfect.
And then, and I'm gonna come around, I'm gonna like sprinkle these around and then see what I've got left here. I feel like that, I'm very cautious here with my pennies.
Yep.
As you should, as everyone should.
Right.
I definitely would put at least 1 to partnership-led growth. I think partnerships are just such a vital part to like most people's pipeline gen motion. And if you have a really strong partner ecosystem,
couldn't agree more with you.
I am going to put 2 into brand-led growth. I think, especially with what I was just talking about before, like brand, I think is playing a big part in what we're doing.
Yep.
And then I'm going to put 2 into event-led growth, because we have so many events that we do, and that's such a strong part of our pipe gen motion.
Yep.
And then I'm going to put that last single one into customer-led growth, because I think customer voice and what customers are doing for your brand are so important. And I feel like having these spread out, my knee-jerk reaction is to put a whole bunch into like sales and marketing-led growth, because that's kind of what we already do. And like events, like those are our like big bets that we always do. But I feel like you kind of made the point, it's a team effort. And I also feel like pipe gen, if you're looking at this from like, I can spend this however I want, measuring, it doesn't matter. Like I can put these wherever, having it very diversified. I feel like there's just so much opportunity in different areas. Like I want to spend in all these different areas, or like put bets in different areas, because it just opens up the amount of opportunities that you can generate. So This is what I do.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love the well-diversified bets that you have made for 2024. So let's take a look. So Sarah, this is how the industry has made the bets, right? For their pipeline generation in blue. I'm going to now overlay your bets on this chart, right? So the blue is the community.
That's so cool.
Orange is where is there anything that surprises you when you look at this comparison of your bets against the community?
I mean, not in particular. Like I feel like sales-led growth, like every company has a sales-led growth motion. Like we rely on it so much. And so seeing that being our biggest, like the community, or like seeing that be the biggest one, that is not surprising to me. I knew PLG would have, people will have focused on PLG and we don't. So that us having no orange bar there, I guess, is not particularly surprising. But it is interesting to see that my bet for customer-led and partnership-led is higher than what the industry standard is, that those two are not as heavily focused on, which makes sense. They're hard to measure. You need people owning them. Like, I feel like that's always kind of the holdup with like customers, communities, partners. Like it just needs really good ownership internally. And so I think some companies don't focus on it because you don't have the budget for it. You don't have the headcount for it, which totally makes sense.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I would love to come back in a few months and talk to you about how your bets are paying off. But this was very, very helpful. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.